Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 27th, 2012 meeting of the Goffstown Planning Board. We'll begin with introductions, as usual, starting with Brian.
I'm Brian Rose. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Brian Hanson.
Mark Warden.
Gail LeBrecq, Recording Secretary.
Tim Redmond, Chair.
Richard Meany.
Barbara Griffin.
David Pierce, the Selectmen's representative.
Simone Duhamel, alternate.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. The first order of business is our minutes from our September 13th, 2012 meeting.
You ready for a motion?
Well, let's wait and see if anybody has any questions or corrections, Mark, first.
One correction. Page 24. The word complaint should be changed to compliant.
Anybody else have any other corrections or comments? Mark?
I move to accept the minutes as written with that one correction.
Second that.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Brian, to accept the minutes with the one correction. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yes, abstain.
David's abstaining, chair votes yes. Just as a matter of order, should we have Simone voting tonight? Do we have a quorum?
She makes the seventh member.
She makes the seventh? Just want to make sure that we're doing it properly.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're voting?
Simone will vote. I heard her vote,
Right.
and I want to make sure it was correct or incorrect.
Good.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, under action items, is number 2, a recommendation is needed to the Board of Selectmen for granting a building permit to rebuild a single-family home on a private road that has municipal sewer and water. Property is located at 21 Channel Lane, map 19, lot 16, presently before the ZBA and Concom, and has previously reviewed and recommended, presently before the ZBA, and the Conservation Commission has previously reviewed it and recommended the granting of the variances to the ZBA. Anybody want to make any discussion or comments on this application? That's not an application, it's a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Everybody has a little packet with it, which shows the green outline of the proposed structure, including a deck, and the red dotted outline is the proposed demolition of a single-story building and a garage to make way for the new building.
So it hasn't been demolished yet?
I would imagine they're waiting for permission to do something. I don't know if that's a fact or not. Brian?
That's right.
That's a fact.
Okay.
So we're being asked to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen whether we agree with the project, or if we have concerns or comments that would give them reason to make a decision.
I
Okay.
typed up a memo as well, just that's something that's sitting there on the table hopefully for you.
Question.
Just
Please,
detailing
Barbara.
some of it.
Brian, what's happening to the garage? Are they not gonna have one?
It's gonna be taken down.
So they're not gonna have one?
I'm not sure if the design of the house has a garage built into it or not. It may, but they won't have that existing garage anymore.
Okay, Brian, as noted, there's a memo in her packet dated September 27th to the planning board. Anybody has a chance to look at it?
I guess my question on that piece would be, and I know that they have water and sewer, so I'm not particularly opposed to this. I'm probably not gonna take any position on it, just because I think it's an issue that should be dealt with the Board of Selectmen, absent some obvious planning issue. But I would hope that that gets clarified, because the legend just provides existing building as the dotted red line, not existing building to be demolished. So I do think that needs to be clarified, because I think if you're gonna do anything like this on a lot, your permit needs to be for everything. You can't be coming, you can't be coming back in for something else down the road. And most people who have a garage are loath to get rid of it. That's why I'm asking. I would think it would be pretty unusual to build a new house and not
Yeah.
have a garage when you have one. And the house is not huge, it's 28 by 30, so I can't imagine they're gonna put a garage in that green space.
Well, this house
Oh,
sits on top of that existing garage, so
Right, that's
they're
what I
gonna
mean.
end up having to take it down.
Well, I mean, the garage as it stands now is probably at least 28, 30 feet long based on the legend, so you could do a garage with what's left outside the scope of the green building. I'm not saying I disagree with it, I just think it needs to be addressed.
Mark?
Barbara, and under the notes,
Yeah.
number
where?
6,
6?
is the owner's intent to raise the existing house and associated garage and construct a new single-family house with a 2-car garage under.
It is.
Oh, so they're gonna do the pillar thing, okay, thank you.
884 feet, must be a, raised ranch, small floor plan.
The whole
Well-
front of, the
Well,
whole
this
front
is
of
in the
that.
floodplain, they probably have to do pillars for living space to do a new building permit. That's why they can do it under, is they're gonna have to raise the building to build
Oh.
it, to get the permit from the state.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. That's how they're putting it under, okay. I guess they figure they can drive the cars away when the water comes in, they don't need.
Hopefully they'll have enough warning, right, to get them out of there.
Mark, the only thing or Brian, the only thing I see on this plan that it doesn't, I don't know if it counts in our zoning regulations, is the driveway is obviously not gonna be 10 feet from the property line, which is one of our regulations.
Well,
They may have an existing driveway that is similar to the one that they show, but I don't know what, they do show a new driveway, and it comes out, the radius ends right at the property line, and that is in violation of one of our regulations. So could you handle that in an administrative issue if they have to make that an adjustment, or apply for a variance, or a waiver or something?
Yep.
I guess would have to come back to us if it was a waiver. Unless there's an existing driveway there now, which would grandfather it. It's hard to tell, because they show a brand-new driveway
well, I can
20 feet wide.
I can see a line that says existing pavement.
Yeah, I don't see the new driveway, I just
One
want
note,
to say.
one note says replace existing paved drive with permeable pavers.
It is.
We have existing pavement on a dotted line on the right side of the
There's
driveway.
only one line though for the pavement,
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
that's
see
the
the other line.
confusion.
It may be all the way to the property edge.
Well,
I'll clarify
I'll
that.
have to review that, and if it's an administrative decision, I'm good with it, but if it's a waiver, it's gonna have to come back.
Question, Brian, I'm assuming this comes to us without notice to abutters. Abutters will get notice of the ZBA action and the selectmen's action?
That's right.
Okay.
Brian, can I just ask if you have any concerns about this as drawn?
No, in fact, I think they've done a good job at trying to ameliorate the situation. They had a property where the building even crossed over onto the town property. The town owns that property next door. And, so now it's taken care of some of those, issues that were there. They've got, essentially their structure's right up against the property line, and they're pulling it back on both sides, so.
The location of the town's chain link fence probably gives a false impression of where the boundary line is.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, there's an existing house there now, so putting up a house where an existing house already is, to me, that's not a major issue in any way, so.
Ryan, is there any concern on the width of the driveway? Is it, the cut of the driveway into the Class 6 road, is it within the width acceptable?
Again, I mean, if it's an existing driveway, we may, I don't know, I'll have to look at the regulations, but if it's an existing driveway, I would say that we'd have to probably allow them to keep that. I'm not sure how that works.
If they showed the existing pavement on both sides, it'd be nice, but it only shows it on the one side.
It does say that they're removing it and replacing it with permeable
Pavers.
pavers. But,
It's possible that the other existing pavement dashed line is buried under the blue line for the boundary.
yeah, that was one of my assumptions.
due to the footprint of the existing garage, it would
Makes sense.
make sense.
If you look at the driveway, Dave, that you mentioned about the entrance to the town road, if you look at it, the property actually encompasses the entire road and the property across the road as well. So the road is smack through the middle of the lot, so
Mhm.
you, giving them a limit on the frontage on their, within their own property boundary is gray area at best. Okay, let's move forward. Does anybody have any comments that we'd like to relay to the Board of Selectmen? Mine was to Brian, we need to make sure they know what the driveway regulations are gonna meet the driveway regulations in regards to the, driveway to the set, edge of the driveway to the property line. 10 feet is under our regulations. And if it's already there, then it would be grandfathered, in my
Or
opinion.
setback and width, right?
If you're gonna have a two-car garage under the house, you're gonna need a driveway that's 20 feet wide, so you can drive 2 cars side by side and get into the garage. You can't have a 12-foot
Why?
wide.
You could word it as
Lots of people have a driveway opening that's narrower than the garage opening.
Well, it's very short too, Barbara, and it
Mm.
provides off-street parking if you're gonna have people there as well, so. Channel Lane is a very narrow road to begin with, so.
I don't believe 20 feet is an issue. I'm not sure what the width requirement is at the right-of-way, but it's technically not, well, it's sort of right-of-way, but it's a
Yeah.
Class 6 road, so.
Much money
It's
could be spent.
wishy-washy.
We just
in there.
addressed that, didn't we? We just addressed the driveway width in the last zoning, round of zoning rules at the last vote. And I think we made a number, didn't we?
I don't know if that impacts Class 6 roads or not.
No.
I'll
Driveway's
look
a
at it.
driveway. Okay, anybody else have any comments for Brian to pass on to the Board of Selectmen?
No.
All right, by a show of hands, is the board in favor of recommending this project move forward? All those in favor, raise their hand. All those opposed? Abstaining?
No comment.
No comment from Barbara, so add it up. Okay. That good for you, Brian?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, under new business, map 5, lot 56, 3-1, public hearing for a time extension request for approved site plan application for the proposed veterinary clinic by Stephen and Denise Langley, Tato Drive and Mass Road, Zone Commercial Industrial Flex. Brian, could you give us a brief rundown on where this project is?
Well, for those who don't know this project, it's been before the board a few times for time extension. In fact, this was approved prior to me getting here 2.5 years ago. So since I've been here, it's been extended and extended a couple of times at least. Essentially, their project got to a certain point, got the approval. They had interest by a veterinarian to build it, and then the downturn in the economy turned it all around, and she became disinterested. Since that time, they haven't found another taker to build the project. They're still wanting to keep the approvals that they gained from the planning board. And so they're asking for another extension for 12 months in hopes that the economy will improve and they'll be able to develop the project.
Thank you, Brian. And this is would this be the third request, Brian?
I think so. I think that's right.
That's what you said.
There's a letter from the applicants, which everyone has in front of them. I won't bother reading it. It will be entered into the record because Gail has a copy of it. Basically stating the reasons why they're making this request for time extension. Anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make to the applicants at this point?
How about for Brian?
Oh, Brian, let's go with Brian first. Barbara?
Brian, to your knowledge, since this was approved before you got here, have there been any changes in our development regs or ordinances that would impact the approval of this plan as it is?
Not to my knowledge.
And to your knowledge, have there been any changes in state regulations that would impact the approval of this plan as it is?
Again, not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian?
Lastly, you said staff comments were not considered? Why didn't you just send this out to see if anybody, or do you not do that on extensions?
Not for time extensions typically.
Can you please do that in the future? Because I think there are other departments who would know if there had been changes in regulations or ordinances that would impact the plan as developed.
Sure.
I mean, not that don't think you know as to the specifics of this plan because of the location and all of that, but I think it probably needs to be done, so it's very clear that nobody has any issues with the plan as approved.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything else for Brian? Before I move on to the applicants, we'll need a motion for items number 1 and 2 on staff recommendations.
I make a motion, we find that this time extension proposal for the approved site plan does not have a regional impact, and that we accept this time extension proposal for the approved site plan as complete and ready for review.
Second.
Motion by Richard, seconded by Mark Warden. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes. Okay, at this point, we'll ask the applicants if they'd like to say anything. I'm putting you on the spot, Steve.
Steve Langley, I think you pretty well summed it up, and we just want to be patient and wait for quality music. That's all I have.
Good job.
Nice and short. Beautiful.
You're obviously not running for politics anywhere. No job? Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicants at this time? All right, then we'll open a public hearing. Does anybody in the room have anything that they'd like to add or question? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have any remaining concerns that have to be addressed before we can move on with this? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion that we approve a one-year extension for the approved site plan to October 9, 2013.
Second?
Motion by Richard, seconded by Brian Hanson. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes. Unanimous vote. We have a one-year extension.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other business to bring before the board tonight?
Mr. Chair,
Brian?
if I can just make one request.
Sure. You want a raise or
The
something?
end- Well, yes.
Now you mentioned it.
Second that.
We can direct that to the gentleman to my right.
No, we're coming up on the end of the year already, and we haven't really had any discussions on zoning amendments. And I know we've got a planning board meeting that's very short tonight. I don't want to necessarily force you into talking about anything tonight, but I would like to at least request that you come up with something if you have something that you want to make a change to the zoning ordinance or development regulations or whatever it may be, that we start discussing that so that we can make sure that it gets on the ballot, if it's a zoning ordinance amendment.
Would you, Brian, would you prefer that if any member of the board had something they'd like to discuss, they submit it to you in writing so that you can prepare it for the rest of the committee to be able to see it in writing
Please.
and review it adequately?
Or if there are topics that you would like to at least review and change in the zoning ordinance, and you're not, you don't have an actual proposed change yet, we can at least discuss the topic and, or bring it up in the next planning board meeting, and that way we can start the discussion there.
Well, in regards to that, I note the October 11th meeting has two things onto the agenda, and the October 25th has nothing. Do we want to make the 25th, if there's nothing on it, a zoning workshop?
We can?
That would be provided that we have something to discuss.
Okay.
That'd be the copy.
Well, it's just the timeline for these, it creeps up on you, because
Yeah, it does.
you've got to have them done by, the public hearings on these are
I
in,
think we do
like-
the first one in December.
December.
And the second one is in like
so you got to
early
have them done by
January.
November. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm suggesting if people have things they want to talk about, maybe by
Yeah.
next meeting, we'll know if Brian's gotten anything. If people have issues, we can all find out what they are in case we have other things. But you can't wait too long on
Yeah.
this stuff, because you just don't have enough time to notice the public hearing.
And is the formal process for Brian to bring something to the board? Can any of us present it to
Anyone
the board for
can,
approval?
yeah, anyone can present it. If it's a planning board member, then we'll be discussing it as a planning board recommended or not recommended item. If it's a member of the public who just comes in and wants to make a change to the zoning ordinance, then they have to go through the whole petitioning process,
Signatures and such.
signatures and all that.
But to answer your question, Mark, the reason I asked to be submitted in writing to Brian, so that Brian could then give everyone a heads up in the packet that Mark Warden wants to change zoning ordinance and cite the chapter and verse, so that we all have a chance to read it. And
Yeah.
we'd be able to discuss it at the meeting, wouldn't just show up and I'll have to start digging through the books to
Sounds
better
good.
understand it.
Sure, that's great.
That's just so we can be prepared.
And the only difference in the process is the ones we sort of generate or go through Brian will, if they go through, would appear on the warrant as recommended, not recommended, presented as requested by the planning board as compared by petition.
I see. That's right. Thank you.
One that may be of issue that we want to discuss is, last meeting, we had lighting and signs. And that's been kind of an ongoing questionable issue, and I know our lighting section is like this big in our ordinance. It's not very long, it's like 3-4 paragraphs or something like that.
Well, I think we are gonna need something to address the LED issue, because it's been pointed out to us that our standard of the 25 to 35 or whatever it is reduction isn't even close to what it should be.
Well, that was,
So-
yeah, that was stated at the last meeting by the applicant, I remember that 25 or 30% isn't even close to what you should be. They were talking 70 to 80% reduction.
They said 90 on theirs.
So, maybe we need to get some formal standards adopted so that we can have everybody on the same playing field, and we don't have to give each different applicant a different number.
Make it up as we go along.
Well, it's been done before, Mark.
Yeah.
I'll, Brian provided me with some information from Jutras Signs
Okay.
about exactly that. I'll study up on it, and I'll have some information for you folks. If I can get a handout prepared ahead of time,
That'd be great.
I'll try and get it out to everybody so we can have an intelligent discussion about it, so we can provide some leadership to people that come in with exactly that.
I really think this needs to be done because the floodgates are now open for LED signs. They're gonna be
They are.
coming in on a routine basis.
All right, I'm keeping in mind the clock, since we've already blown our record possibility, but I'm cognizant. But I did want to just ask, what happened with the vote in regards to the GPA sign?
I asked Brian about that before the meeting, and he has
I
not,
haven't addressed it yet.
has not
Okay.
addressed that
Right.
issue yet.
Okay.
We were not gonna bring it up because he hadn't had a chance.
All right, no, that's fine.
I would have brought it up if he had something for us.
Okay.
But thank you for asking. Any other discussion on the zoning? We missed our 11-minute trick, so we're
Darn
gonna.
This'll
do. Next time.
This'll do. This is.
I just have one other piece of information for the board, and that's that we did go through a selection process for the Pinardville planning project. Richard sat on our committee to do that, and we selected a firm called Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative. TPUDC is their acronym. So they're a firm out of Tennessee, actually. They have a satellite office up in Maine, and so we'll be doing a little bit of distance meeting with them But we're working on a contract now with them, and once that's ready, we'll send it to the selectmen for approval, and then we'll jump in both feet forward and start working on the project. So I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be a really good project, and I hope that we can get a lot of people to participate in it. There seems like a very experienced firm, and I think they'll do a good job for us. They're working on Londonderry's master plan right now, and I heard good comments from Andre that, they've been doing a great job for them over there. So just be aware that, we'll be asking for the planning board to participate as much as possible in this. 'Cause it's obviously a planning function and to work on a sustainable community plan and smart code to go along with it, so.
Would you like to add anything, Richard,
Yeah.
since you were on the committee?
All I can say is I was very impressed with the group that won. I
Good.
think they're gonna do great things for Bernardo.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other business to bring before the board tonight? Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
we have a simultaneous motion to adjourn by Mark and Richard. Does anybody want to second it?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes. 27
and a half.
minutes.
Well done.